Good morning, my brothers and my sisters in Christ. This is Kerry Green. I am your brother walking on this path of faith with you. I am here with this Morning Mindset edition to encourage you, to help you set your mind on the truth of God, because Jesus said, when you know the truth will set you free. We've been looking at Romans chapter 8, and it says, the Spirit of God adopts us into God's family. But the phrases that Paul uses here are not only phrases that were common in his culture, but they're phrases that had meaning in his culture, a meaning that everyone hearing them would have understood. And you see, our culture is very different than his culture. Words take on new meanings or different meanings as time goes on and as people change and as society changes. And I think we run into that a little bit here in Romans chapter 8, verse number 15. Let me read the passage to you, and then I'll point out the phraseology that may strike us a little odd. And then I'm going to define for you what it would have meant to someone back in Paul's day who heard that, so that we can get the full meaning of what he intends, because that's really what we want to know. We don't want to get hung up on words and phrases and define them through our lens of understanding. We want to go back and understand, what did Paul intend by saying this? Because it's his meaning that really matters. Okay, here's Romans chapter 8, verse number 15. He says, "For you did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption as sons, by whom we cry, Abba, Father." Now, clearly, the point Paul's trying to make is that we're no longer enslaved to sin. We now have been, through the Spirit of God, adopted into his family. That's his main point. But he uses the phrase, you have received the spirit of adoption as sons. As sons. Now, for those of us who are not male, those of us who are female, that could sound kind of exclusive, like it's leaving you out. And in our day and age, this whole issue of division and divisiveness between male and female has become such a hot button that we almost immediately hear a phrase like this and define it that way. Well, they're leaving me out. I'm a woman. They're leaving me out. Let me caution you on that, because in Paul's day, this idea of being a son in a household had great power. Because yes, in their culture, there was a hierarchy, so to speak, a value placed on sons that was more important than it was to be a daughter. And I'm not trying to whitewash that at all. That's how his culture was. But Paul, knowing that to be the case, intentionally uses the phrase adoption as sons to apply to anyone who places their faith in Jesus Christ. Do you see what he's doing? He is saying, no matter who you are, male or female, when you are adopted into God's family, you receive the place of a son. And he's talking about a son in his culture. That was a place of preeminence. That was a place of authority. That was a place of rights. That was a place of cherished position. And by using that word, he's pouring into this sentence the meaning that whoever is adopted into God's family receives that position of importance, male or female. So my sisters, let me encourage you, when you hear the word sons in a passage like this, don't take it as exclusionary. It's actually the exact opposite. Paul is trying to communicate, it doesn't matter who you are. When you're adopted into God's family, you are adopted into a place of great value. And you can turn back to him now and cry out, Daddy, Father, because you have a place at the table. You have a place of importance, a place of great value, because of what the Spirit of God has done in you. Now, we're going to go on tomorrow and talk about what happens between us and the Spirit of God as we take up that role of a child in his family. Join me, won't you?